Good evening. The Who's today were on at Canterbury. I might as well say park. It was a little bit parkish. The fence saved ground on the fence, and it was an advantage. That was today. On Sunday we had a meeting at Gosford, and the track was good at Gosford. The rail was 3 metres out, and the track was on fire. They ran. I think they broke the track record in one race, but excuse me. Interestingly, no leaders won. There were one or two that sat handy. One sat outside. I think it was the last race. Sat outside the leader, but there were actually no leaders winning. The track, as I say, was on fire. When they turned for home, there was a very, very strong southeasterly blowing. It was helping them down the side until they turned for home, and then it was against them, and especially those on the fence in the straight. And that could have possibly been the reason, if not the reason, why no leaders won. The first race, there was they said there was 114.6 on the screen. There was one race, very bad race here today, figure-wise, and you'll see that it was fairly fat percentage-wise for the captains all day, but it wasn't. Very seldom things are what they seem. Skim milk masquerades as cream. Don't believe it. I'll tell you later on what the story was there, what the mother and the glory was there. Anyway, the first race, Gerald Ryan produced a Stitzel filly, and Stitzel's duel. Sat 3 wide with cover, and it was a bit too strong, winning by a length and a quarter. $7 was given. Started about $6. Gay had the favourite in the race, Mr. Jackman. It sat outside the leader, who was Soliton from Barrier 1. It led on the fence, Gay outside it with Mr. Jackman. Mr. Jackman held on fairly. Was beaten about 1.5 lengths. It started the evening money favourite, but it wasn't good enough. And the winner was 3 wide with cover, and it wasn't a bad little win. Excuse me. Race 2. Now this is the race where the figures were disgraceful. We bet as there was a late scratching in the race, and that was number 1, Earth's King. I didn't want to miss it. I gave $9.50 for a good bit of section, and it started. It was only, if it would have started, it would have only started a $5 chance. One of the pros, he had a couple of large plates, or more than that, 3 large plates, and there were plenty of followers as well. And unfortunately for the backers of Earth's King, they got their money back and have to trial before it starts again. It played up in the barrier and came through the front and was a late scratching. And before that, as I say, we only gave about 93.5%, which was absolutely correct. And the winner, certainly Rosa, it was one of the first runners back. As soon as we went up the $11, it was taken on every board, and it only started before Earth's King was scratched around about a $7 chance. So it was 10s to 6s before the 4-to-1 favourite came out of the barrier. The reason this race, as I say, there's only 93.4, but it was a bad result for the captains because the opening Avery, I'm talking about Decrillion, who got trapped 3 wide in the run in about 4th position, just behind the leaders or outside the lead. It went from $3 to $7. It didn't have a name. Would the owners to Decrillion please step forward? No one stepped forward to back Decrillion. It never had a price. And very similar with the opening second favourite, the Look. It went from about a $4 chance, 3-to-1 out to $6, 3s to 5s. And it settled well back and went fairly ordinary. It did pull up lame. The winner, It sat outside the leader. The leader held on fairly well. It ran second, Supreme Bella, but it didn't win. The wind might have been against us slightly, and coming off their backs was Snazzy Socks from Barrier 1 having a good run. Those three got away from the others. Race 3, there was 109.3 on the screen and less in the marketplace. And even though it led on the fence, grabbed the jewels, I suppose it did have to run in. This was a 2,600 metre race, and when it came into the straight the first time, unfortunately, it had to run, cut the breeze and up the side of the track out of the straight, but down the back straight, of course, it had the wind with it, and it was gone before the turn. It was fairly hard to lay. We put it up 11.08 on chance, about $1.70, and it quickly got out to as much as $2.20, and started around about that price. And it led, and as I say, it finished up running third, had beaten 4.8 lengths. It ambled up to it, coming to the turn, the second favourite, Roulette Prince, who was very well back from $3.60 into $3. We had plenty of percentage in the two, but it was still no good. And Roulette Prince, as I say, it raced up as before the turn as if it was going to win. But coming from last position was the winner, Queen Dana, and it was getting into third hole just as they straightened, and it plugged on best, beating Roulette Prince by one length. They were a team of trotters in that race. Race 4 at Gosford on Sunday, they said there was a fat 118 on the screen. You never see it, do you? But I tell you, I look straight away and I can see where 6% is just like that. Now, they said the best luck about number 1, the winner, Passe del Prado, was $2.80. I was $3.30 when they jumped, and a funny thing, there was no one to take the $3.30. It sat midfield, 3 wide, with Horseman Huey Bowman, half carting, and when they got to the turn, even though it sat 3 wide for most of the journey, it was really travelling well, and it moved up, and coming off its back was the second horse, Ducarius, who was well back from as much as $7 into about $4.40, and number 8, Aerogram, coming from last, and it was back $17 taken into about 15 or 14. It ran third. The 3 place getters coming from well back. It led up front, Lucky Lona, resuming from a very, very long spell over a year, and it set a fairly fast pace up front. It did run along, and I thought stuck on fairly well under the circumstances. The winner wasn't a bad win. You wouldn't be rushing to back it again, but it was fairly solid. Race 5, they said there was 103.8 on the screen, and that was about right, so a little bit less in the marketplace. By the same token, there were runners. It wasn't worth a halfpenny. There were runners in this race that didn't have a price, and one of them was one well in the market, and that was Zabeel Babe. It went from $3.50 to $7, and there wasn't a stamp for it. My Thai Lady, again, not much cash for it either, although it was layable. It went from about a 11-8 chance, $2.40, out to $3.30. Whips of Money was back, opening at $5, got out to 7, back into 5. Equiano was back. They took $12, started about $9 or $9. Now the winner, Miss Opulence, well, we all saw it at Wyong last start. How didn't it win at Wyong? It was 3 wide. It was a 2,100 metre race, wasn't it, at Wyong, or whatever the story was there. It was 3 wide for most of the race, and it had the hide to be only beaten under a length, running 4th. It only had to slot in at Wyong somewhere in that race, or had to draw an inside alley. It would have got the cash. It was perfectly written today by Tommy Terrific Berry, and he gave it a cut down the side to keep his mind on the job at around about the 900 metre mark, and it moved up 3 wide to challenge My Thai Lady, who led on the fence and sitting outside at whips of money coming to the turn, and it was a bit too strong, winning by a length and a half, and it was extremely well backed. At one stage, we put it up about a 5-2 chance, got out to $3.90, not the $4, a tick under $3.90, and it was back into about $3.50 at one stage, but started $3.70 hard to get. We came to race 6. They said there was a fat 114.9 on the screen. Wouldn't it be great if it was? And looking straight away, I can see where a good bit of percentages. They said the top fluck about the Avery Grand Cooler was $3.10, and it SP'd $2.90. Well, I was $3.50 when they jumped, and I couldn't strike it for $5 to 2. That was 5-2 the field, and no one to say a brick on it. But the winner, unfortunately for the captains, we got poleaxed here. Cant.13, it was $8 into $4.60, extremely well backed. And I think it ran a track record for the 1100 metres, 62.89. I think that's what I wrote down, and that's very fast. It was able to get into third and fourth hole just behind the two leaders who were Breakout, who finished 22 lengths, running 22 lengths last. It's not worth, it's a fairly ordinary netty Breakout. It led with Perfect Rouge on its outside, and Cant.13 with Nathan Berry. By the way, Mrs. Berry, she said there's not a struck match between Terrific Tommy and Neat Nathan. She said they're equal when it comes to ability riding in the saddle. And he was able to just go up he's off heels coming to the turn, 3 wide, and win by 1.8 lengths and running very fast time. The favourite in the race, Grand Cooler, it was on its outside, and he just pushed it out of the way on the turn. It finished up running fourth, beaten 3.1 lengths. We came to race 7, and they said there was 114.2 on the screen. Well, what a lot of rubbish. There was only 100. Now, these were the flux. Imperial Grand was always about $13. Ralston, $9 given, started $7.50. Rock Achiever, I bet $17, and I think I might have even been, I know it was $17, yes, and it started about $16. I might have even been 21 when they jumped. Ivanhoe was $6.50 out to $7.50. Manchebo, I couldn't get any big section out of it. It was $4 to $6. I think they returned, they said the top fluck was $5. The next one, runner, Cometza, it was, I bet $6 about Cometza, started $5.50. They said the best was given was $5. Cartini, they took all the 13 Cartini, but it started 12. Arrowette, $10 given, started $8.50. Fozzie Bear, $21. And we get the Royal Flush, $13. There's no 114.22 there. There's only about a spot, about 100. And this race was won by Cartini, who sat outside the leader. The leader on the fence was Arrowette, stuck on for third, so its run was a bit better than it looked. Cartini sat on its outside, and coming off Cartini's back in the 1-1 position was Ivanhoe. So the 3 place getters were up near the front. The Royal Flush got trapped 3 wide in the run. Nothing special to say about the race. And then we came to the last, and they said there was another fat 120.2%, 120%, but there was only 108 with plenty of runners unlabelled. Now these were the flux. Raporic went from $9 out to $12. Magic Guy, they said the best was $5.50. I was $6.50, begging at the death. Harry the Drover, $17. 15 out to 17. Rivaled was $4.40 out to $5. Gypsy Ruler was $11 out to 17. Mr. Nagel was $6.50 out to about $7.50, back into 7, back out to $8. Seagull was $15 out to 16. Capienco, we didn't want to miss it. It went from $5 out to $7.50, back into 7. The winner, Leo Spirit, $5 out to $6.50, back into $5. Had a very bad result on this race. And then we got down to Bow Column. I think they said the best luck was $21 or $26. I was $61 or $71. And there was a late scratching at the barrier, and that was Domatan. I think they were going to say the best luck about it was 26. Well, I was $40 or $51 about it. There was nowhere near the 120. There was only about 108. And the winner was by far the best back, leading on the fence with the wind against it, was the second horse, Rivaled, and it finished up being beaten 0.8 of a length, and coming from getting a good split after sitting in about 5th position, turning for home after Mr. Nagel had lugged off the track. Apparently it has got a very tender mouth, Mr. Nagel, and after it lugged off the track, hung very badly. The winner, ridden by James McDonald, it moved up to the leaders and fought very strongly to win by 0.8 of a length, as I say, and coming off its back, ridden by horseman Huey Bowman, was the third horse, Capienco. He tailed the winner all the way, but couldn't get past him, and it finished up running third, beaten 0.9. They got away from the others. I suppose they were by far the superior runners in that race. Then we got to the meeting at Canterbury Park. I'll say park because, as I said before, it was a bit fancy today. The track was a slow 6. I think they might have even upgraded it to a slow 5. I'm not too sure. There was give in the ground, but it played, as I say, towards those saving ground if you could on the fence. Surprisingly, in the straight, they did get off. They didn't stay right hard against the fence, and it was all right saving ground and leading on the fence coming to the turn, but getting a little bit off the fence seemed to be the case with a few winners. Now, the first race, I didn't write down here what percentages we gave here today, but I can assure you it was very skinny all day. There was very little margin for error, and it was a bad day for the captains because plenty of well-backed runners won. The first race, this was won by Maximilian. Now, it came out of the barriers as if it had a catapult behind it. It went ping, and after they'd gone 3 strides, it was a length in front, and horseman Huey Bowman, he took hold and he let, of course, who would it have been? Would it be I Own the Lead? It was going straight to the lead. Yes, Magnetron, ridden by James McDonald. Instead of being trapped 3 wide down the back, he had no alternative but to go forward, and it went around and led on the fence, Magnetron. But when they got to the turn, it got off the fence, and you could have driven a few runners up inside it. And the one that was sitting right behind it was the winner, Maximilian, and it showed a very good turn of foot, and it went away and won by 3 lengths. It was a strong win, and coming more or less off its back along the fence from barrier 3 was Tribal Art, having every possible chance, and from well back in the field was Shawano, who seems to be always running on. It ran into third hole, beaten 3.5 lengths. There was one runner that was very well backed in this race. It started favourite, and that was Skutchum. It was $4.60 into about $3.70, or even started $3.60. At one stage I laid $5,200 to $2,000. They did take $3.60 off me at one stage, but it started about that price after $4.60 had been bet, and it missed the kick and unfortunately got trapped 3 wide in the run, and it dropped out and was beaten 7.6 lengths. But it still was a bit disappointing. What was I going to say there? That was about it. The winner was by far the best run in the race, and there were a few other runners backed, but it wasn't much good. The race 2, now we saw here number 2 in this race, Angel B. It opened up $9 and got out to as much as $10 on one board, but it only started $8. Hard to get by the same token, and it was a fairly good win. It sat outside the when I say it was a fairly good win, it stuck on well, but it shouldn't have beaten the second horse if the second horse doesn't hang badly in the straight. I'm talking about Long Shadow. Long Shadow, trained by Gay, went straight to the lead, and Gay had another runner in this race called Seductive Star. He had barrier 1. It was third on the fence and stayed close to it. It finished up running fourth, beat 3.6 lengths. But when they turned for home, Long Shadow was still holding the lead with the winner on its outside, Angel B, and Cassidy extended on the leader, and as soon as he did, it started to shift ground, and riding the winner was McDonald, and he switched straight back to the inside. Well, he had no alternative. Instead of being carted wide, he switched back to the inside of Long Shadow. But even though Long Shadow was still hanging very badly, it did look like it was still going to hang on, but it couldn't, and because the last 50 metres, it even with all of his skill, I think on some other riders, this horse might have even finished a lot wider than it did, and not as close to the winner as it did. But with all of his skill, the pumper was able to keep it as straight as he could, but it got beat about a half a length or a long neck. And if it does go straight, of course, it gets the cash. It was very easy in the marketplace, Long Shadow. It was a skinner for me, more or less. It went from a $4 chance, 3 to 1, even a 5 to 2 chance, out to as much as $5.50 at the death at the finish of betting. And as I say, very hard to lay. Whereas Gay's other runner, Seductive Star, it was $4.40 out to $5.50 back into 5. They kill you for $5.50. It was extremely well backed. And I'm just looking here, which runner was, oh yes, of course, Nagini, number 8. It was the one that was very well backed and finished up starting favourite. It settled back in fourth last position or third last position near the fence from barrier 3, Nagini, and it didn't make up much ground in the straight and was fairly disappointing. And it started favourite after I gave $9 for a good bit of section. They took the $9, they took my 8, 7, 6, they took the 5, they took the 5.50, and they took the $5 towards the end of betting, and they even took the $4.60. It started $4.40 only, the guinea, and went very poorly, as I say. And as I said, and what else can I say in this race? The top one, it hung on the rider, a Dream Girl, having its first start from the Waller camp. Waller had a couple of runners in the race. He also had the well-backed, the guinea, and the top weight, and both of them more or less had their chance. The second horse, if it goes straight, it definitely wins. Race 3, this one went nice and straight for Gay and also for the pumper. Hippo Puss, it was taken straight to the lead, and the pumper, he would have been smoking his pipe counting the 10% down the back straight, because it was rolling along very nicely. Looking at it was Courage, who won a fairly poor race at Wyong last start, and when they went out of the back straight, this race was more or less over. When Cassidy, the pumper, he had a full, he had plenty of horse underneath him, and he was railing and saving ground near the fence, and he stayed fairly close to it all the way up the straight, winning by 3 3/4 lengths. And when I say it was quite obvious it was going to win, because you look back into the field, and in 5th position or 4th position, the runner that was sensationally backed, and that was Super Continental, who won a fairly poor race at Goulburn last start, or Narrow, one of the two. It was under pressure when they slipped out of the back straight, and even halfway around the bend, not making ground. So it was evident the winner was going to win. Coming from last was Ambivalent into second hole, making up a lot of ground, to be beaten at 3 3/4 length margin, and it was $25 into $26 into $21, but the winner was far too good. Race 4, in this race, we saw who won this race? Oh yes, the second favourite, Babiro, going straight to the lead was I Own the Lead, So Symbolic, trained by Gay. There were it was only a field of 5, and So Symbolic, it led with a Disciple on its outside. Tucked away third on the fence was Bielski. On its outside was the winner, Babiro, and looking at the 4 runners up in front was a Scoffler. And when they were halfway around the circle, heading towards the turn, So Symbolic was still going fairly strongly with Disciple on its outside, but moving up 3 wide was Miss Jenny Duggan, still being able to claim 3. Look, the 2 girls who do ride in Sydney against the riders in Sydney, of course, we know they'd hold their own anywhere in the world. They're world-class riders. And these 2 young girls, I'm talking about Jenny Duggan and, of course, Killer Cat O'Hara, they for females, are exceptional riders, because not only are they good, have the horse skills, but their strength is they have plenty of strength, and they're able to hold their own against, even though they were all apprentices in this race, was apprentice riders only, but when they do ride against the senior riders, as I say, they are exceptional, an exceptional pair of female riders, these 2 girls, and she showed a lot of strength to win on Babiro, beating So Symbolic, ridden by Sam Clifton, by about a neck or a head, and it was a long neck to Disciple, ridden by Miss A. Collette, who she rides as well. She rides very well as well. It was beaten a long neck in 3rd position. That's about all you'd say there. The fluctuations, well, was at the finish of betting that Disciple went from $5 out to $6.50. I gave her something back into 6. Now Babiro went up about a $2.70 chance, got out to $3.10, or not, if not $3.20, but only started $2.70. And I think if the betting would have gone much further, the $2.70 would have been taken. Whereas So Symbolic, it opened up the 10 to 9 on, well, take your 10 to 9, have your 10 to 9 So Symbolic. Bookies reached for it, and it got to $2.25 taken. At one stage of the betting, I did lay 4,000, got 4,000 out of it at $2.10, plus a good bit of other section. but I was $2.35 when they jumped, and itching to go $2.40, and you couldn't give it away at the end of betting. And the other pair, the two roughies in the race, the Bilski was $21 taken into 17 back at one stage, and Escoffler was $19 taken into 18. Both roughies were backed. So if you went off the $3.10 and the $3 favourite, the winner, and you didn't lay the favourite early, you might have found it hard to win on the race bookmaking. Race 5, in this race, we saw the favourite win, Zin Zan Eddie. Now, I think the SP is only going to be around about $3. It was on one board on the fence when they jumped behind the pylon. It was $3. It's a bad stand there where the way the stands are situated at Canterbury. If you're on the rails and you draw behind that pylon, it's a big it's a bugger of a place to be, because a lot of the punters can't see your board. And there was one board hidden in behind the pylon that was $3.40 when they jumped, Zin Zan Eddie. But it would only be returned about a $3 chance, as I say. And it jumped and it sat outside the leader. The leader was Full Blast, who held on fairly poorly, beaten 3.7 lengths. And Zin Zan Eddie was able to get straight past it, turning for home, and got to the middle of the track, and getting a beautiful run up along the fence from barrier 1 was Set Go, who would have been a great result for the captains, because it didn't have a price. It went from about an $8 chance, sevens out to $12, $8 out to $13, Set Go, and it was ridden by the 3 kilo girl, Mrs. R. Murray. She railed up, got a lovely run inside the leaders, turning for home, but wasn't able to put its bib in front of Zin Zan Eddie, who had got clear after straightening, and it held on just to win by about the nose margin, 0.1 of a length. And there was a protest in this race, 4th against 3rd, which had to be dismissed. The horses never even touched. There was a bit of interference, but not sufficient enough to say that any runner should have beaten the winner by any means. Running 3rd, as I said, was I'm about to say, was Kyola, having its first start for Gerald Ryan after coming up from down south, and the 9th Legion, it came off its back, running 4th. It protested against the 3rd place getter, but it had no chance of being upheld. The winner was a strong. By the same token, if you run this race again, you'd be, even though it will start at $3, you'd need a little bit longer price to back it. But by the same token, it was a fairly strong win. Race 6, here we saw the favourite win, Flying Bay. At one stage that we put it up a 5 to 4 on chance, Flying Bay. It seemed to be the only leader in the race, and that turned out is what happened. Ridden by Father Schofield, it went straight to the lead, Flying Bay, and it got a very soft lead. When they rolled out the straight, there was no pressure being applied up near the lead, and he was able to stroll across to the fence and get into the back straight and have a very, very easy time most of the journey. And he's only won by a neck, 0.3 of a length, and 1.1 lengths away to the 3rd horse, Flying Bay, leading all the way. And it was 10 to 9 on, out to, or 5 to 4 on, $1.80 out to evens, and the pros stepped in and took the evens and the lady of the 10 to 9 on, and even the $1.85 on for whatever you wanted at one stage. I laid it at $1.80, but when they jumped, you could have evening money again on the fence, and it was, I suppose, if you run this race again, I'm certain anyone who took the evens, they most probably wouldn't take it. I've already priced this race, and I've marked it longer than the even money. It ran second, Our Girl Charlize. It was always going to be even though it gives the impression, well, as it always does, of running on, it was obviously going to be a bit of a doubt at running the 1900. As one clever fella out there told me, all it needed was something to take it into the race or take off down the back straight and get onto its back, which didn't happen. And Sean Guymer had to take off after they went out of the back straight and come wide, not real wide, but 3 wide. And as I say, it only failed by a neck. A little bit more pace in the race, and you could have had a different result here. Charleston Lady, the runner resuming from a spell, only having one start prior to this in Australia, it held on after getting a good suck in 4th position, very, very well beaten 1.1 lengths. It no doubt will be improved, and the others all just plugged to the line. Then we came to the last, and here we had Lisa Lost It. Well, this was the other runner to stay close to the fence and win all day. In the straight I'm talking about, Lisa Lost It. It pinged straight to the lead, and it finished up winning by 1.5 lengths from Agon, who had barrier 1 and came straight off its back and couldn't run it down, having every possible chance. And coming from well back in the field was the easing favourite, Bella Rosie. It was very hard to lay. I must admit, I got very, very little section out of it. It went from a $3.20 chance out to $4.40, Bella Rosie, 9-4 out to 7-2, and it made up plenty of ground. Was in an awkward position and was beaten 2.3 lengths to finish. Now, of course, in this race, there was one runner that was sensationally backed, and I'm talking about Radiator. It was $9 into $5. A return is shorter than $5, but it was $5 when they jumped on the fence. And of course, we all saw what happened. It's very easy now. Leading on the fence, as we know, and was the winner, Lisa Lost It. Behind it was the second horse, Agon, and directly behind it, from barrier 3, was Radiator. And when they turned for home, if there would have been a little bit of room, I've got no doubt that James McDonald, being the talented rider that he is, he would have stayed on the fence, but he pulled the right option at the time, and he eased off Agon's heels, and he found himself in a very awkward position, explaining to the Stipes that he was waiting for a split to come, thinking that some runners were going to weaken, but the run never ever came, and of course he went back to the inside when the race was all over, and this horse went to the line unextended. Everybody in the universe will see its run and will want to be on it next start. If you do, come and see me. I'll let you on it at the top fluctuation. This horse is a very, very ordinary runner in my opinion, and when it starts next start, after being so unlucky today, I'm pretty sure it will be under its right price. That was about the meeting. There were no, besides Radiator in the last race. By the same token, I think if Radiator, if he does stick on the fence and perseveres and takes the odds to it, waiting for the run to come, I have no doubt that it most probably would have won, but it didn't, and that's the unfortunate thing of racing, whether you're bookmaking or punting. If the luck goes with you, you can win plenty of section in this game. If it goes against you, it drives you absolutely bloody mad. Anyway, that was about the meeting. The Who's tomorrow are on at Gosford. It's one of the worst meetings. I had a quick look last night. It is a fair dinkum. It's not, the meeting is a Galaganbone meeting. There are some runners, half of the program is made up of runners resuming from the longest spells you've ever seen. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there tomorrow. Good luck, and we'll talk to you later. Evening.